Fiends need me. I ain't around, they bones ache. Detox, rehab, cold sweats, watch them shake. Damn, baby, all I need is a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
The year is 2005. Hurricane Katrina devastated multiple southern states in the United States with damages estimated to be over $100 billion. GTA San Andreas released and went on to become one of the best-selling games of all time, with 27.5 million copies sold overall. YouTube was founded and the first video would be uploaded to the platform. George Bush was sworn in for his second term of presidency. Just 2 months after this, 50 Cent released his sophomore album, The Massacre. Before getting into the album though, if you haven't already done it yet, go follow my Instagram. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys can always reach out and show me some love. It's all good. Make sure to comment on what it was like for you in 2005 when this album came out and what your reaction was when you first heard it. How has it impacted you? Also, rap-wise, in 2005, some albums that came out this year were Late Registration by Kanye West, The Documentary by The Game, Curtain Call, The Greatest Hits by Eminem, and The Carter 2 by Lil Wayne. By 2005, 50 Cent was on top of the game. Though Eminem still released music after his 2004 album Encore, he would not drop another album until 2009 for multiple reasons, his addiction issues being the main one. Jay-Z retired after his 2003 album, The Black Album. He seemingly left music behind in order to serve as president and chief executive officer of Def Jam Records. This retirement did not last long because he returned to music just 3 years later in 2006 with the release of Kingdom Come. After the 2004 releases of his third and fourth album, Sweat and Suit, Nelly would not release another album until 2008. He dropped a Sweatsuit compilation album in 2005, but it only managed to go gold. While still having some success after Sweatsuit, Nelly would not be the same force that he was in the early 2000s. I mean, you have Ludacris as well. He was holding it down. He was selling good, going #1 and going platinum, but throughout this time, he was never on the level of Eminem, Nelly, and Jay-Z. And I'm purely talking about sales, by the way. Nothing to do with skills, because skill-wise, he is up with those people. But The Massacre is significant to 50's career because this would be the last time that he was on top. 50 eventually got overthrown by Kanye, who had the second best-selling rap album in 2005 with Late Registration. By 2007, Kanye famously beat 50 Cent in a sales battle between 50's album Curtis and his album Graduation. Lil Wayne had a top 10 selling album in 2005 with The Carter 2. By 2008, he emerged to the top of the rap game with the release of The Carter 3. So as monstrous as The Massacre was, it really happened to be the start to the end of an era where 50 Cent was dominating everything. He was everywhere. 50 had all of these endorsements, his own video game that released later in 2005, had a movie that also came out later that year, etc. But the story of The Massacre starts after the release of 50's debut album, Get Rich or Die Trying. This album was released in February of 2003. It topped the Billboard 200, selling 872,000 copies in its first week. It could have done way more, but the album was released earlier in order to counter bootlegging and the album being leaked online. 50 went on a monstrous run that year, dropping multiple mixtapes, and released G-Unit's debut album, Beg for Mercy, in November of 2003. After the success of Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 did not immediately want to follow up with the sophomore album. This is because he wanted to build and establish G-Unit by dropping their debut album afterwards, which did well, and then focus on the solo albums under G-Unit Records. Lloyd Banks released his debut album, The Hunger for More, in June of 2004, while Young Buck dropped his debut album, Straight Outta Cashville, in August of that year. But throughout this time of building up G-Unit and its members, 50 started working on his sophomore album. He took a different approach with this album, starting off with his beat selection. Dr. Dre was the primary producer for Get Rich or Die Trying. In order to not be biased with the Massacre, 50 Cent had producers send him beats and he would receive CDs with just a number on it in order to not be biased as to who it was. He listened to these CDs, and this is how a good portion of the beats on the album were picked, aside from 50 working in the studio with people like Eminem, Scott Storch, Dr. Dre, etc. The version of the Massacre that we have now is completely different from what 50 originally had in mind for the album. The Massacre was initially supposed to be about imperfections. The second album did not have anything sexual on it. The plan was for it to be balanced correctly. I was trying to make my imperfections cool. If anybody said these things later on in my career, it would not matter because I said it first on this record. But I ended up giving Hate It or Love It to The Game to launch his album. By 2004, The Game was signed to Dr. Dre and his Aftermath Entertainment label for some months. The notion around him at the time was that he was an incredible rapper, but he struggled with writing hooks and being a songwriter. If you're relatively familiar with Dr. Dre and or Aftermath Entertainment, then you would know of the insane amount of people to be signed to the label for years and ultimately got shelved. Stat Quo, Rakim, RBX, King T, Eve, Joel Ortiz, Raekwon, John Connor, etc. The Game could have easily ended up being someone like a Bishop Lamont or Slim the Mobster if he never joined G-Unit and got a break. The Game disagrees with this, saying that the world would have heard him either way, but nonetheless, The Game never asked to be in G-Unit. This idea came from people like Jimmy Iovine, who co-founded Interscope Records, the distributor of Aftermath Entertainment. Higher-ups felt that G-Unit needed some representation from the West, so it was decided that The Game would be that guy. He accepted this because it was a no-brainer to join a crew as hot as G-Unit was at the time. This is why 50 played such a pivotal role in the making of The Game's debut album. 50 Cent featured on the first 3 singles for the documentary, first appearing on the lead single West Side Story, which was released in September of 2004. This song did not do so hot on the charts, with it ultimately peaking at number 93 on the Billboard Hot 100. However, the second single performed significantly better, with that being How We Do. This was released in November of 2004.
Up in the club, this is how we do. Nobody do it like we do it, so show us some love.
This is one of the songs that 50 originally wrote for the Massacre, but ultimately gave it to The Game for his album. The same thing goes for the third and last single that 50 appeared on for the documentary. This single is Hate It or Love It, which was released in January of 2005. It ended up peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top. And I'm gon' shine, homie, until my heart stop. Go ahead, envy me.
This song reinforces what 50 meant about the Massacre originally being about imperfections.
That's like when I wrote for Hate It or Love It, I mean, I tell you, I wasn't sure that I wanted to put it on my album because I was talking about like when I was growing up, that my mom, my mom kissing a woman, and so I put it on a Games record because I wasn't sure the public was ready to hear that from me because we only offered a certain amount style of content to them. So that was me putting my toes in the tub.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Massacre would be viewed differently if 50 kept Hate It or Love It and How We Do for himself. If he did, we would have gotten a completely different album than what we got due to 50 moving in a completely different direction. In his words, he pivoted to an album more sexual in nature. I personally believe that 50 meant that in terms of singles because Candy Shop, Disco Inferno, and Just a Little Bit are way more sexual in nature compared to In the Club, 21 Questions, and If I Can't. I think aside from the singles, the Massacre still has a strong street presence with songs like Ski Mask Way, In My Hood, Guns Come Out, A Baltimore Love Thing, Rider Music, etc. The first single to be released from the Massacre was the song Disco Inferno. This dropped in December of 2004 and ended up peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. As of 2023, this song is double platinum.
Little mama, show me how you move it. Go ahead, put your back into it.
Before the track was officially released, 50 Cent leaked the track. He butted heads with the label because 50 originally wanted the Massacre to be released around Valentine's Day of 2005 in February. This is because the St. Valentine's Day Massacre was the initial name of the album. This is a reference to the 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre when 4 men dressed as police officers whacked several people in Chicago. Interscope Records did not want 50 to drop in February because the Game was set to drop his debut album, The Documentary, in January. They wanted 50 to give the Game some time to breathe, especially since he was a new artist. This is why they suggested that 50 Cent should drop in March instead of February, which is ultimately why the name of the album was changed since it would not release around Valentine's Day anymore. But the purpose of the title of The Massacre was 50 telling the industry that when he dropped, he would massacre his competition, similar to the event in 1929. I was trying to force Interscope Records to release my record on February 15th, but Interscope Records is reactive. I'm proactive, so I threw Disco Inferno out and kinda got them to respond to me. But the Massacre probably wouldn't even be coming out March 8th if I didn't do that at that point, because this project is a big project to them. They want to have everything mapped out and it's more mechanical this time. Around this time, 50 would further comment about why he leaked Disco Inferno. Aw man, the record's done incredible. It's number 4 in the country right now, and it had zero support from Interscope Records. I went out with it, with or without them, and they caught up to it. They ended up sending out official promos after I MP3'd it across the country. I feel good about it, and now I'm ready to move into the candy shop. And moving into the candy shop is exactly what 50 Cent did, with that being the next single of the album. Before it was officially released as a single, 50 Cent leaked the track by including it on the G-Unit mixtape 2050 Before the Massacre. This dropped at the beginning of January in 2005. Interscope Records were definitely not happy about this, but later that month, the Game released his debut album, The Documentary. It topped the Billboard 200, selling 586,000 copies in its first week. Though 50 Cent leaked Candy Shop in January, Interscope Records did not officially release the song as a single until February. Candy Shop ended up topping the Billboard Hot 100 charts for 9 weeks. As of 2023, this song is 5 times platinum.
I take you to the candy shop. I let you the lollipop.
After this, there was still a month left before the Massacre was set to be released, but things continued to go wrong for 50. He was already in a lot of mess due to the subject matter of his music and beefing with other artists, but a beef with one artist completely got out of control. This one artist happens to be the Game, who did not take too kindly to 50 publicly ousting him from G-Unit while he was on the radio. This resulted in a shootout with an associate of 50 Cent being shot. On top of this, the release of the album did not go according to plan. Earlier, I mentioned how Get Rich or Die Trying was released early due to the fear of the album being leaked and bootlegged. This is the same exact thing that happened to the Massacre. Back in the day, albums came out on Tuesdays, with March 8th being the planned date for the album. But due to the album being in the hands of bootleggers, the album got pushed up to March 3rd of 2005, which happened to be a Thursday. This meant that 50 would not have a full week's worth of sales due to this. Despite only having 5 days worth of sales, the Massacre went on to top the Billboard 200, selling 1.15 million copies in its first week. Absolute insanity. Only Eminem has ever outdone this, and he had to deal with the same issues that 50 had with his albums having to be released early during his prime. The Massacre received generally positive reviews after its release. It sold really well, but as time has gone on, this album leaves a very divided legacy. Some people believe this album is a classic, while others feel that it could have been more. 50 was in a unique situation. He had a ton of pressure to deliver with the Massacre. He had the biggest debut rap album of all time, surpassing Snoop Dogg's 1993 album, Doggy Style. When it came time for Snoop's sophomore effort, it still did well commercially, but did not receive the best reviews critically. 50 also has not spoken about the Massacre in the most positive light. He feels that he overwrote during the production of the album. Just in a 3-day span, he wrote down 12 record concepts, 2 verse songs that were incomplete, which led him to start all the way over, and he still ended up having over 20 songs on the album. Some critiques of the Massacre are that it was too long due to it being filled with too many B-side records and filler tracks. There was also a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, which I spoke about in greater length in my video about 50 Cent on whether his career was ruined on purpose. Go check that out if you haven't already seen it yet. But I'm not afraid to admit that I'm completely biased towards the Massacre. It holds a special place in my heart because this is the first album that I ever bought with my own money. This was in like 2008, 2009, I believe. I was 4 when the Massacre came out, so I did not get it until a couple years later. I used to do this thing called innovation research or research innovation, I can't remember what it was, but I used to get paid to taste food. I was like a kid. So adults used to do it and they used to get like money for it, but since I was a kid, my money, they used to put it on gift cards and stuff like that. But anyways, I gave the gift card to my mom because obviously I couldn't buy it, I was too young. So my mom bought the Massacre for me with my money, and I was a huge 50 Cent fan at the time, and I listened to the Massacre religiously when I was a kid. This is the exact reason why I'm dropping this video during the holiday season, because of this memory. I will never forget that moment when I first bought this album. The album starts with the intro. In this intro, you can hear the song What Up Gangsta from Get Rich or Die Trying in the background. The woman in the intro opens up the CD to the album The Massacre as she reads the message on it. It's 50 Cent wishing his fans a happy Valentine's Day, which is immediately followed by gunfire referencing the 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre. This fades into the next track, In My Hood. I couldn't really find any history behind this song, but the track is essentially 50 giving the listener a glimpse inside where he's from, which is South Jamaica, Queens, and New York City, New York. The song This Is 50 is next, and once again, I couldn't really find much about this song. One thing I can say is that 2 years after the song's release, 50 Cent created his own website, thisis50.com. While the past 2 songs did not really have any history behind them, the 4th track on the album does. It's the song I'm Supposed to Die Tonight. This track details when 50 Cent was famously shot 9 times back in May of 2000. Bullets pierced his hand, arm, hip, both legs, chest, and face. He spent 13 days in the hospital and he could not walk for 6 weeks. This incident forever changed him physically, mentally, and emotionally. especially physically, because 50 now talked and rapped with a slur after being shot to the jaw. 50 still has bullet shrapnel in his tongue to this day. The following track is Piggy Bank.
Man, I get at you. My knife cut your skin. I get at you. Blow shots at your man.
In this song, 50 Cent disses multiple people. First and foremost, he disses Ja Rule. These two have a long storied beef that dates back to the late 90s. But in 2004, Ja Rule released the song New York.
And you know I'm all about big chips, cause baby I'm from New York, New York.
It's believed that Ja was subliminally dissing 50 Cent in the song. What's funny about this record is that despite 50 and Ja Rule having beef, 50 actually liked the record, but he knew that he had to come back with something because he feared that Ja Rule was going to heat up again after cooling off a bit. Aside from Ja Rule, 50 Cent took issue with the other people featured on the track, which are Fat Joe and Jadakiss. This is because 50 felt that they sided with Ja Rule during their beef by showing him support and featuring on the song. In Piggy Bank, he raps that Jadakiss needs to be careful or he'll do them like Jay-Z did Mobb Deep. This is a reference to Jay-Z dissing Mobb Deep in his song Takeover, as well as exposing an infamous picture of Prodigy on stage at the 2001 Summer Jam. In Prodigy's 2011 book, he detailed how 50 Cent also dissed Mobb Deep in the line about Jadakiss in Piggy Bank. This happened to be because Havoc, the other half of Mobb Deep, appeared in the music video for Ja Rule's song New York. The funny thing about this situation is that later on in 2005, Mobb Deep signed to G-Unit Records. Jadakiss has spoken about how he wanted to be neutral in the beef between Ja Rule and 50 Cent. He appeared on the song New York out of respect due to the connection that Ruff Ryders had with Murder Inc. Records. That gave him some ammo to act like I was siding with Ja, but it wasn't really like that. It was just a good song at the end of the day. 50 Cent realized, I guess, that it was doing a little something, making a little noise, and he was on Operation Ja Can't Make No Noise, so that all transpired from there. It was really all a marketing tool for him. How could I not go back at 50 Cent? How would you feel if I didn't go back at him? For Fat Joe, 50 Cent dissed him by calling him fat and also saying that Joe thought that his smash hit Lean Back would be like in the club. Technically, the song Lean Back is a Terror Squad song that he appears on, with Terror Squad being his crew. Lean Back was widely successful, with the song topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks. What I kind of find bizarre is that despite it being a popular song that still rings off in the clubs, Lean Back has only gone gold. In the club as of 2023 is a diamond record. 50 also laughed at the fact that his last album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', sold 11 million copies, while Joe's last project was a dud. This is a reference to the Terror Squad album, True Story, that was released in July of 2004. This album peaked at number 7 on the Billboard 200, selling 90,000 units in its first week. This album has yet to even go gold. Shyne, Khalees, Nas, and Lil Kim are other people that 50 Cent targeted on the song. Nas and 50 used to be cool with each other back in the day, with their relationship dating back to the 90s. In 2006, a year after the Massacre released, Nas talked about his situation with 50 Cent.
I've never really been in a word war with 50. 50 came up with me. Like I brought him on tours with me, and I like him a lot. Had a lot of love for him. And to tell you something real, I think what happened was he was hurt by me, by certain things he thought that I did were against him in certain ways that he didn't understand, moves I was making. And his thing is, he's gonna say whatever's on his mind. And sometimes, he don't know when to stop. And I think he just gotta get those things off his chest. But I never really had any wordplay. And of course I say little things here and there, but you know what, at the end of the day, I know it was hurt.
Fans believe that their beef started when 50 Cent was removed from Jennifer Lopez's song I'm Gonna Be Alright, which was released in 2001 for her remix album J to the LO, The Remixes. 50 Cent originally featured on this record, but most likely due to Nas being way more popular at the time, he got the nod to replace him. But there does happen to be rumors that Murder Inc. was involved with 50 Cent's removal on the song. 50 Cent felt a way about being removed from the song and he bashed the collab. It's also possible that 50 Cent wasn't too fond of the rumors of Nas potentially joining Murder Inc. Records, which circulated back in 2002. Nas ended up not going to Murder Inc. Records, but he did go at 50 throughout the years, like calling him fake at a concert in New York City in 2004, and even saying in an interview that he would not diss 50 on a record because 50 wasn't worthy of a response. His reasoning being that 50 was still a new artist and he needed to make 5 or 6 more albums to initiate a response. He said this right after the Massacre was released and after 50 Cent dissed him in Piggy Bank. So this backstory is why 50 Cent went at Nas in the song, referencing Nas getting Khalees tatted on his arm. As for Lil Kim, 50 mentions her plastic surgery on the song. This was not the first time that he did this. Back in 2002, on the Obi Trice song Love Me, 50 Cent rapped that he thought that Lil Kim was hot until she started playing with her nose. This led to a small beef that ultimately got squashed, with the two collabing together for the song Magic Stick.
Got the magic stick. I know if I can hit once, I can hit twice. I'll hit the baddest chick.
This record was originally meant for Trina and intended to appear on 50's debut album Get Rich or Die Trying. According to 50 Cent, Trina and her people completely messed up the song. After this, it got suggested to 50 Cent that Lil Kim should be on the record instead, which ended up working out. While Magic Stick did not make the cut for Get Rich or Die Trying, it ended up appearing on Lil Kim's 2003 album La Bella Mafia. This song peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Despite its popularity, a music video was never done for the song. There's different rumors about why this never happened. From 50 Cent's perspective, he refused to do a music video for the song due to him being paid $175,000 for the record with no single rights. This means that there was no intention to make this song a single. Lil Kim has said that 50 Cent asked her on a date, which she declined due to having a boyfriend at the time. Well, this boyfriend that Lil Kim had allegedly got involved in the situation. 50 Cent and G-Unit did a freestyle on Hot 97 where 50 Cent dissed Lil Kim.
Yeah, I wrote Magic Stick. Yeah. I gave Kim a hit. Yeah. Then I shoot the video, she threw a little fit.
Right after this, 50 Cent and his crew were shot at outside a hotel in Jersey City, New Jersey. At the time, people thought that Ja Rule was involved, but in 2005, Lil Kim's now ex-boyfriend, Damian World Hardy, was indicted for running a Brooklyn street gang responsible for multiple deaths. Although the police could not prove that Damian was at the scene of the crime, it's widely believed that he was involved in the shooting. In 2015, Damian was sentenced to 6 terms of life imprisonment due to his involvement in ordering unrelated hits. More shots were thrown between Kim and 50 Cent throughout the years, but last but not least, we have Shyne. This is similar to the Nas situation in the regard that Shyne almost signed to Murder Inc. Records. With Murder Inc. being 50's rival, 50 took issue with this.
I heard Eric trying to shine, so I ain't got no love for him. Tell him 50 said he's soft, he won't shoot up the club again.
Shyne did not take too kindly to this diss, and he reacted with his diss record titled For the Record, which appeared on his 2004 album Godfather Buried Alive. It was released during Shyne's 10-year prison sentence for a 1999 nightclub shooting in New York City, New York. Shyne recorded his diss towards 50 Cent over the phone, which is why it sounds like this.
Just don't get the feds involved, and I'ma reunite you with your mom.
So this is why 50 Cent went at Shyne on Piggy Bank, saying that he was in protective custody while he was locked up. Next up is the song Gatman and Robin, which features Eminem. When speaking about the song, 50 said that he feels that the two have always played villains. So instead of being Batman and Robin, they were Gatman and Robin. The track has a superhero supervillain theme, with the beat sampling the theme song to the Batman cartoon from the 60s. Eminem also produced this track along with several others on the album. The intro, In My Hood, I'm Supposed to Die Tonight, Gatman and Robin, Ski Mask Way, and My Toy Soldier are all of the tracks that he has production credits on. Candy Shop featuring Olivia is next, and as I explained earlier, the song was a smash hit. It was produced by Scott Storch. The beat for Candy Shop was initially made for Fat Joe. According to Scott Storch, Fat Joe passed on the song because he felt that it was too quote-unquote poppy. I find this hilarious because Scott Storch produced Lean Back for Terror Squad, so if he thought that the beat for Candy Shop was too poppy, then what the hell did he think about Lean Back? Because that song sounds probably even more poppy. Fat Joe explained that he did not have a problem with 50 Cent at the time, which is why he did not care that the beat was given to 50 Cent. Scott Storch called Joe numerous times to see if he was sure about letting the beat go, but Fat Joe just did not want it anymore. Fat Joe also said that he did not care to give away the beat because he was overconfident due to his success on the Billboard charts at the time. It's really something that a beat that he ended up giving to a dude who turned out to be his enemy turned out to be one of the biggest hits of his career. The song Outta Control follows this. This is hands down one of my favorite songs on the album. I love everything about it. According to 50 Cent, this is one of the last songs that he recorded for the Massacre. It sucks that it's largely overshadowed by the remix to the song, which features Mobb Deep. I believe that both versions of the song are produced by Dr. Dre and Mike Elizondo. This record led to confusion amongst 50 Cent fans because the remix version of the song completely replaced the original version on the special edition of The Massacre, which dropped in September of 2005. Fans accidentally downloaded the original version when they were trying to download the remixed version. Due to this confusion, the original version peaked at number 92 on the Billboard Hot 100, while the remix peaked at number 6 on that same chart. Earlier, I mentioned how Mobb Deep signed with G-Unit Records in 2005. Mobb Deep were dropped from Jive Records, and a week after, 50 Cent gave them a call to sign with G-Unit Records. They signed on a dotted line, and 50 gave the duo new Porsches as a signing bonus. The song Get In My Car follows Outta Control. The most notable thing about this track is that the Migos sampled it for their 2021 song I Need It. Ski Mask Way is next, and the song is about a robbing spree that starts in New York City, New York, and ends in Newport News, Virginia. This then fades into a Baltimore Love Thing. This is 50's favorite record from the album.
The fiends need me. I ain't around, they bones ache. Detox, rehab, cold sweats, watch them shake.
So you understand what I was doing when I was writing A Baltimore Love Thing? Was I was writing the relationship between the addict and the drug heroin, and how at points the drug could actually become angry if it had human emotions, which you listening to outsiders say that the relationship that they have is not good. So I kept going from the actual drug heroin to how a man would feel thinking about this woman leaving because she's listening to her friends. So I use the male perspective.
The song that comes after this is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's called Rider Music. I love everything about the track. It's exactly as the title says, music to ride to. Nothing much about it history-wise though. The following track, Disco Inferno, does. As I've mentioned earlier, this was the first single to be released for the album. In 2015, during an interview for the 10th anniversary of the album, 50 Cent spoke about the song. Dr. Dre did not produce it, but 50 said that Dr. Dre did not understand the record. 50 explained that he initially wrote the lyrics to a different beat that Dr. Dre produced, but then 50 heard the beat that went on to become Disco Inferno from someone else, and he moved his lyrics over. So this is why Dr. Dre was not really feeling the song, but 50 did get him to mix the song afterward. Just a Little Bit comes after this, and the song ended up being the third single for the album. It peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Damn, baby, all I need is a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
This is the second record that Scott Storch produced for the album. It's really hard to imagine Scott Storch not producing Candy Shop and Just a Little Bit for the Massacre. These were half of the album's singles. After producing these songs for 50, Scott said that he got a call from 50 thanking him. He said that 50 told him that he saved him. This is most likely due to the extreme pressure that 50 was under to deliver for the Massacre. Scott Storch laced him with 2 bona fide hits that were widely successful. The 15th track on the album is Guns Come Out. It's produced by Dr. Dre and Mike Elizondo. This is the last track that the two produced for the album. Really hard track. The same thing goes for the following track, My Toy Soldier. This features Tony Yayo and was the last track that Eminem has production credits on for the album. When you look at the Massacre, there only happens to be 4 features in total, with those being Eminem, Olivia, Tony Yayo, and Jamie Foxx. Out of those 4, only 2 are rappers, which are Eminem and Tony Yayo. When asked about why he did not have many rap features on the Massacre, 50 Cent said, I kept it down to that because by then the artists had already had their solo projects out, so I didn't have that whole I gotta have a verse on Banks. At that point, the guys had established themselves and they had their own niche, their own wave. There was no reason to not put my idea on the record to put something that was a collaboration that could possibly help their career. There was no reason to make that sacrifice at that point. Position of Power is the next song on the album.
I come through your hood, stunting in my yellow lamb. Marcielago, chop down, nigga, damn.
When speaking about the song, 50 refers to Position of Power being similar to Many Men from Get Rich or Die Trying. This is because he felt that Many Men shaped his debut album, while Position of Power shaped his sophomore effort. Position of Power made 50 understand where he wanted to go in a creative standpoint with the Massacre. Build You Up is the 18th track on the Massacre. It features Jamie Foxx. In my opinion, it's one of the more underrated tracks on the album. I have absolutely no clue why this record never became a single. It's really good, and Scott Storch also produced this. This is the third and last beat that he's credited on for the album. Candy Shop and Just a Little Bit were smash hits, but if there was one record that 50 has ever done that he wanted to be a hit, it was the next song, God Gave Me Style. This was the first song that he wrote for the Massacre.
Sometimes I feel like I'm the one. Sometimes I feel like I ain't one.
This song means a lot to 50. After he made the record, he played it for his grandmother, who played a pivotal role in his life. I actually went to my grandmother. I played my grandmother the song. It was the first time I was able to play her a record without kind of cringing. My whole life, I had to be 2 people. I had to be 50 Cent outside, and then I had to be Curtis inside with my grandmother. Some of the stuff that I say on the records are 50 Cent lines, and my grandmother looks at me and goes, where'd that come from? So when I played that one, she was like, I like that one. Wow, you done made one for me. Then she said, don't forget why people like you. She said, I know what you're doing. I know why you're writing it, but don't forget why people liked you to begin with. And I was like, oh shoot. And then the next record that I wrote was Curtis 187. It was Back to the Darker Side. And this is what they always want from 50 Cent. Curtis 187 would not make the cut for the Massacre, but did end up finally releasing on 50's third album, Curtis, in 2007. The second to last track on the album is So Amazing, which features Olivia. I really couldn't find any history behind this track, and the same thing goes with the last song on the album, I Don't Need Him. There does happen to be a bonus track on the album, which is the G-Unit remix to Hate It or Love It. I've kinda already detailed the story behind this track, so this draws us to close up the album. Regardless to how people feel about this album, like I said, this album means a great deal to me. as I've explained. I know people have mixed feelings about it, but it's a classic to me. I get people not liking the album because of what it could have been, but I think that what we got was really, really good. All in all, let me know down in the comments what album you'd like me to cover next. I love you guys with all my heart. Peace.